We are there's a couple more stops along the way, okay. But we will not. The detour won't be that long. So let's talk about U.S. Steel. Let's talk about steel as a product. U.S. Steel has been on our stage before. We've talked about its recyclability, its endurance, but I think you want to tell the larger story of steel.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. And I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with steel, but I've been learning a lot over the past year and a half because I have joined U.S. Steel for that long. But for those of you in the audience, how many of you own a car? Okay, all right. How many of you have ridden in an Uber or a Lyft? Oh, I can't get the room 100%. All right. How many of you own a refrigerator or a washer and dryer? And there we go. Okay, I think we have 100% now. So those all have steel in it, and it's essential to our everyday life. Without steel, we wouldn't be able to do some of the things we do today, and also steel is also going to be essential for enabling a more sustainable future because steel goes into solar power and infrastructure to actually build a solar power base, and it also goes into wind power. And it also helps transform electric vehicles into more efficient engines for us to actually be able to use. So it's not only, I realize, part of the challenge, which is why we're all here, but it absolutely is part of the solution.
So you're also a business, an organization that is, running in regular business environment. How are you incorporating sort of ESG principles into your overall operations?
Yeah, absolutely. I know ESG is a little bit controversial these days. I try to compartmentalize that and focus on what our stakeholders ask us. Mm-hmm. But it's actually really interesting at U.S. Steel. Sustainability is actually intertwined and embedded into our corporate strategy. So where the company is headed, and we're a 122-year-old company, so where we're headed is solidly not only in transforming our entire business, but also in terms of sustainability, transforming how we make our products, our operations, what the types of products that we deliver to our customers to enable them to be more sustainable and achieve their own goals. So I think the fact that it is embedded in it is a huge advantage for us because I know several colleagues, and I know many of you out there, who sit in different organizations. Sometimes as a sustainability professional, it's hard for you to, move the needle and progress forward on your journey if you don't have strategy behind you, if you don't have your, CEO and leadership support, which we do at U.S. Steel.
So it's a manufacturing company, but you're manufacturing a core component. What principles of circularity have you worked into your workflow and into the development of your product?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I think U.S. Steel is like the OG of circular economy. We were practicing circular economy long before it became a term. We've been reusing steel for over 120 years. In addition, we reuse a lot of the gas that comes off of both from our coke making process, which if those of you who are not familiar with steel making, coke is a purified form of charcoal and it's used in blast furnace. And that has gases, so we actually reuse the gas to provide energy, but also in other operations. We also reuse gases that come off of our blast furnace, so where the iron is actually transformed then into steel. And we use those also as heat sources. We've also used some other byproducts off of that in other industries too. I think we have a graphic to share. I don't know if it's going to be.
Let's see if the clicker will work.
No one wants to look at my phone.
There it is.
All right, cool. So we have this infographic that we developed. We shared it in our 2022 ESG report. And it gives you, it's just a sample idea of all the different ways that we are employing circularity in our business. So some of the byproduct like slag is used in road aggregate and cement. Other chemical byproducts like hydrochloric acid, which is used to pickle our steel, that's also reused to treat wastewater. But we also reuse the hydrochloric acid in our operations too. So it's a lot of different ways that we're being circular, but then we're also helping companies, I guess you would say, follow a non-linear, more open economy.
Mm-hmm. And I know, I think you have a prop that you...
Oh, I do. I brought some show and tell.
What does this tell us?
This is really cool. So we've created a couple of sustainable steel lines. So one is called Vertex, and it's our lower greenhouse gas emissions, lower carbon footprint steel. That's produced right now out of our facility in Big River Steel, which is in Osceola, Arkansas. So in addition, we announced this year that we are creating this other steel called Index. So if you can see how thin it is. It's like 0.01 inches thin. And this actually helps power electric vehicles. So it makes them more efficient so you can get a longer range out of the charge you get. And it actually, because in electric vehicles, the battery sits in the middle, right? This will sit closer to where actually the wheels move and it helps conduct it. It has magnetic properties.
It's fantastic.
You can see it. Be careful the edges, don't cut yourself. I don't want to be liable for that.
No.
But what's really cool about this is you think about innovation and technology, there's so much that goes into, so much R&D that goes into steel making. And this is just an example of it. Because you wouldn't think that's steel, right? And it can be used in electric vehicles. It can help them be more efficient. It's super light.
It feels like aluminum. If you asked me, I'd say this is aluminum.
We can't mention the A word.
Okay,
Come on,
sorry.
you're talking to a steel person. So it's really interesting too. So we announced this $150 million investment to commission this NGO, non-grain-oriented steel line, which will come online in probably less than a couple of weeks or so. And then we're also constructing a newer facility out of Big River, which is going to provide another 3 million tons of lower greenhouse gas emission steel. So for those of you who are not familiar, traditional steel making, an integrated mill, compared to electric arc furnace technology, has about a 70 to 80% lower greenhouse gas emissions footprint, and we're able to use up to 90% recycled steel. So it's really great to see this technology development.
So also, you're embedded in an industry with a lot of partners, like most businesses. How are you working with others in the steel industry to sort of create best practices and create efficiencies and share innovations?
Yeah. So, the really interesting thing is, and I think part of why I made the decision to, leave Dell and join steel, an industry I knew nothing about, was I see the tremendous opportunity. We are at this crossroads of really gaining momentum, and there are a lot of factors within the ecosystem that are coming together. So from customer demand, right, from a better policy framework to support and accelerate the technological developments to help us decarbonize. And then, we've got suppliers in the mix, helping us along the way to help lower emissions of the raw materials that we put in. So it's really this really amazing ecosystem that's coming together. And I really think, if you're not looking at steel, if you're not thinking about steel, if there are investors in the audience, this is really an opportunity to get in at this junction when we're going to be transforming at this enormous rate.
Is there anything that you need as a company in terms of policy or regulations in order to really help you achieve those goals?
Yes, absolutely. Other regions, right, like in Europe, right, there are a lot of subsidies that are given out by the governments to help steel mills, convert to either from integrated to EAF or even use carbon capture technology. And so in Europe, it's about 70% blast furnace, 30% EAF. In the US, it's reverse. So we're really excited about the infrastructure, the bipartisan infrastructure law, as well as the Infrastructure Reduction,
so you're getting
Reduction Act.
You're getting a little IRA money flowing your way?
They haven't made decisions yet. We are excited about the opportunities. Our CEO likes to say that the IRA is like a manufacturing renaissance act, right? And I really think it is. We are hopeful that we will be getting some of that government support to move forward. But we are working with government partners today in different ways. We announced actually today that we're working with a division of DOE, the NATL, which is National Energy Technology Laboratory. And we've been working with them for a while now to prove out in a lab this innovative technology for carbon capture. And we're working together to develop at scale this new type of carbon capture membrane. So it's like a thin film, and I'm not an engineer, so I'll probably get this wrong, but it's a thin film and it's porous. If you looked at it under a microscope, it'd be porous. And so all of these gases that come out from our steel production process, it's a better way, a more advanced way of actually filtering out the CO2 and capturing that and isolating it. So you could use it, like sequester it, or you could potentially use it for other applications. So we're actually exploring some other partnerships too with companies that are looking at this space, and I think it's really exciting. The thing is, though, I know there's a lot of impatience with around, like, let's solve this climate crisis tomorrow. You're like, decarbonize in the next 5 years. I'm like, we're trying, but it's not going to happen in the next 5 years. But these are the types of projects I think that are going to get us there.
How is taking these initiatives in steel, which I imagine has relatively conservative stakeholders involved? Like, how is this message going? I mean, I'm projecting maybe, but I mean, how is this message gone over? When you say, you want to move on all these different issues, and you've got these goals, and you've got a very old company with very deep roots. How does that message translate?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think mostly everyone is very receptive to the message, right? They recognize that we can be part of the solution. I think that it depends on the stakeholder that you're talking to, right? Customers have set their own very ambitious goals, especially the automakers. And so we need to be part of the solution to actually help them meet their goals. So like one of them, wants to become like 100% EV by 2038 or something, or 2040. So, but then, if you're talking to an investor, it's a different kind of scenario where I think that as a whole, people maybe don't have a lot of awareness or education of how steel is made and the process of making steel and all of the inputs. There are like over 250 data points that go into calculating our greenhouse gas emissions. Mm-hmm. So it's very complex. But I understand the impatience, right, around solving the climate crisis. So that situation is a little bit different, right, than talking with a customer.
Yeah, I think that's also one of the things we keep coming to is that the idea of just being able to publish a sustainability report with charts and legalese and putting it out there is like just not hitting the right audience. It's not hitting your employees. It's not hitting your customers the right way. It may not even be hitting the market the right way. You almost need to tailor the message for each audience.
Well, are you saying that we need to produce like 8 different sustainability reports? Because I'm out.
You're at capacity. You can't handle it anymore.
No. I mean, you're right, though. That's the thing. Like an ESG report or sustainability report is meant to serve multiple audiences. And I think, I have a colleague in the audience who heads up our treasury and risk department, and he's been a great partner of ours. And so we go on these engagements when we talk to lenders, right? And they read it every inch from cover to cover, and they give us feedback and commentary on it. So I'm like, oh, you're the ideal person. Most people just read the sections that they find relevant to whatever decision making they're making. But yeah.
So what innovations are coming down the line in terms of steel? You've already shown us one. Are there other things that you're excited about?
There are, but I can't talk about them. No, there are a number of innovations that are happening. I actually had the privilege of going through our research and development center, and I really had no appreciation for everything that goes into steelmaking. Like, people are looking at like alloys and materials like on an atomic level, and it's almost like cooking. So I had to explain to my kids like how steel is made.
It's really coking.
There's coking, but there's cooking, yeah. And like this ladle in the blast furnace, it's like a giant witch's cauldron. It's huge. It's got this molten, almost like it's like standing next to lava, but hotter. And you add the different ingredients, different alloys at certain times, and you got to cool, and the temperature comes into the mix in terms of what kind of grade of steel you're going to make, and what kind of properties that the customer needs, right, from that type of steel. So we're constantly working with our customers and getting into the design stage to make sure that we're making the grade of steel that can either make the car go further, a longer range on a charge, or even make HVAC systems more efficient, right, to reduce the energy bills for their customers.
Yeah, I think it's one of those foundational I don't know, I wouldn't call it technology. Maybe I should call it technology.
I would.
It's not a
commodity. We don't like commodity.
Yeah, not a commodity. Not a commodity. So if you've got to summarize with like one statement about like what people get wrong about steel, what they misunderstand about steel, what would it be?
I think they misunderstand, and I know I'm repeating myself, I think they misunderstand how much thought and research and development goes into making steel. I think they also misunderstand the role that steel plays in today's society and the role that it can play in helping us lower emissions and create a more sustainable future.
All right, well said. Erica, thank you so much for coming on and sharing
with
us.
Thank you.